Hello, everyone. Welcome to the EKN Radio Network and another edition of the Industry Insider. This is episode number 27. It's August the 16th, 2019. Hello, friends. My name is Rob Howden. Great to be back with another podcast. We're going to be kicking a ton of them out here through the remainder of the season. A lot of guests we have lined up. I've got a couple new Book It podcast guests lined up as well. David Cole and I, of course, knocking out our regular debrief podcast, the review of the events we've attended. A lot of events coming up in the month of September before we have a bit of a break in October, heading into the Supernats in November. But today's guest, one that I'm really interested to sit down and talk to. I've known him for a long time. I actually watched when he was running, I believe, Formula Y back in the day in the mid-'90s. A talented driver, an industry member as well, and continuing to become a force in the sport here now. Sitting down with Justin Stefani from J3 Competition and the Stars and Stripes Rotax Racing Program. Justin, you've done everything. I think I did an article about you guys a long time ago about the fact you were one of the young guns that were getting into the industry. It's a long time ago that you were actually a driver, but you guys and the Giacomellis have really put together a fantastic program with J3.
Yeah, thanks. It's this year kind of marked 15 years of the three of us being together. So wow. I think that's it's been a long time, and I think it's something you don't see a lot in business, and it's certainly something that you don't see a lot of in our industry. So it's been a good 15-year run, the three of us, and we're looking forward to many more years as well.
In the game plan I have here for this particular podcast interview here on the Industry Insider, that later on I want to talk a little bit about the business evolution, because there are not many people in this sport that have done what you guys have done, and that's starting as a racer, getting into the industry. And to be honest, I don't think anybody's then made the move to starting their own chassis line that is now international, and then moving into the promotion side, the organizational side. I don't think anybody's really ever done that. So I want to talk to you about that a little later on. The reason why I'm obviously so excited, Justin, getting you on here is because, in the 20-something year run of what I've done with my career, and then since 2004 with ekartingnews.com, we've watched the growth, the arrival and growth of the Rotax program, then the hurdles that they hit here stateside in North America. Then it kind of went away for a couple of years because, the organization just flatlined. Then you guys step up to bring it back for 2018 and beyond. That's, I think, interesting because I've been trying to get you on a podcast. I've been busy. You've been busy. You're putting on races. I'm going to races. I think it's for anybody who's in this sport and who has been for, let's say, 5 or more years. They remember the Rotax name. They know about Rotax. It's still, a global brand, probably the biggest category single worldwide, right? Running in all the different organizations, the Rotax Grand Finals. This is big because you guys, what you're essentially doing is pressing the reset button on the Rotax program. You restarted last year, July of 2018 at the U.S. Open in New Jersey. You're one of the 2 distributors for the Rotax BRP product line here in the U.S. Let's talk a little bit first about the decision for J3 Competition to make a move from a strictly distributor, dealer, team, chassis manufacturer into getting into the promotional side with Rotax.
Yeah, sure. Well, we started the chassis brand, which was an evolution, right, from our J3 Competition side, which was, predominantly over the years based on distribution and providing race team services amongst some other services. So once we took on and created our own chassis line with CompCart, that's kind of taken a life of its own on, and that's essentially created and left the J3 brand strong. But really, nothing from its core values of distribution and being able to service the market. So the opportunity was presented to us with the Rotax product line, and it just fit really well with sliding that over underneath the J3 Competition brand, and kind of starting that redistribution, if you will. I think reset is what you used earlier.
Yeah.
Which is really a no-brainer for us, right? Just because of the product line, the brand. What that means to the sport. You're talking about probably arguably the world's largest recreational brand. And for them to have such a strong presence and commitment to karting, that side of it's unmatched, right? That's really not up for debate. And, essentially then the kind of today's common karting structure, if you will, with the with a mono series engine, with a grand final sort of concept. With we run a lot of different series where it's an engine platform with the tire, with the structure. All of those structures were originated by the Rotax concept, right? So to be able to be part of that and kind of bring that back is important, and it's something I think a lot of people in our market here stateside have been asking for. There's a lot of people that are big fans of the engine. We all know the longevity, and we all know, obviously now with the parity, with the way the engines are produced, it's a fantastic package. So we're excited about it for sure.
My next question would be what I don't say the introduction, but when you guys came on board, what was kind of the feedback you were getting? Because I would have to say, there were a lot of Rotax competitors, Rotax customers, passionate Rotax customers all around the United States, and of course in Canada as well, right? And there's all these guys that still had Rotax products. Maybe I would expect a majority of them were running in potentially some club Rotax only categories, but also the Rotax fitting into some of the assorted tag programs that were still being run around the country. What was kind of the initial feedback? You guys announced that J3 is coming on board. You have the northern half of the United States where there's a lot of Rotax competition still, a lot of customers. What was that initial feedback? Were you making phone calls? Were you getting emails? What was it in terms of, hey, J3's here. We're taking over the Rotax program. Get ready. We're going to do a lot of great stuff. What was the feedback that you got initially?
Initially, it was really good, and that's just kind of continued to get better, right, over this first year doing it. People were obviously excited because I think they know the level of service and kind of inventory that we've kind of ran our business over the last 15 years. So that brings a tremendous amount of confidence to the market, where people are going to be serviced not only on the technical side of the engine, but also on fulfillment side, right? Getting the parts so that they can keep running and stay up to date at the track. So, it was good. It was a lot of back and forth. Obviously we were prospecting, but there was a lot of emails and calls coming in. So I would say it was genuinely very positive in the beginning. That's obviously kind of grown immensely since now that we've been doing it for a year. People have been able to kind of touch and feel, if you will, and drive the engines and use the tires and see the product, and they're kind of getting the confidence back in the brand, and that's obviously an important step in it. Make no bones about it. You said at the beginning, there was a lull where the market flatlined. Obviously, there was, it's no secret, Rotax did their first evolution to the engine package, which was what the market was asking. And, unfortunately, I think they kind of just missed on a few of those things. They lost a lot of kind of customer confidence in the market. Prior to that, they obviously had a majority of the market share, which had to do with, the quality of the product and the brand, et cetera. So, the fixes have been made, if you will, and the Evo and the Rotax product line all the way through, from the engine to the tires to the lubricants that we have now. They're at a level that I really haven't seen before, and people are using it and people are noticing that. So it's starting to churn, and things are definitely moving in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, to comment on getting back to the point where when you guys first kind of came out of the box and you guys announced what you were doing, and J3, obviously J3 competition set this bar, this level of the way you guys approached everything you did. I think anybody you would talk to will say over that last 15 years, you guys, everything you did was this top level pro deal. Whether it was your trackside services you gave with the team, whatever it may be, through the shop itself and distribution, I have no doubt that coming out of the gate, racers would have said, "Hey, man, it could have been somebody else that picked up the brand, right?" But sure. It was J3 competition. And with you guys being that lead brand up in the northern states, it was this injection of confidence that I think that the sport needed. And I think obviously Rotax needed as well. It seems to me like it was a really good match in terms of Rotax coming in, as you said, the worldwide brand, right? Rotax, Bombardier, Ski-Doo, Sea-Doo, whatever it may be, under that umbrella, worldwide, as you said, like a auto sports, motorsports, fun sports kind of deal. But then you guys bring that confidence in, and those years of experience and respect. I'm sure that must have been a big thing early on for you and the guys to have that fuel that you were able to pour into what you guys were doing. It had to make things a little bit easier.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, obviously, when you look at partnerships, you try to always align yourself with somebody that has the same, philosophy, and they're providing the same sort of service and or products. Obviously, kind of the integrity in which we run our business, and then the integrity and the means and processes in which BRP run their business, that aligns really well.
Yeah.
Obviously they're the world leader in 2-cycle technology as well, which is a known fact. So, just to kind of put, I guess where we're at in the market and have a partner of their stature, it certainly doesn't happen overnight, but, we have a really nice marriage, if you will, right now to just kind of continually grow the sport, create confidence, and create a platform for the entire karting community where people can compete and have the confidence in, the engine, the tire, and kind of that bigger platform, that bigger pyramid, if you will, where we focus on bringing people into the sport and then kind of ushering them all the way up that pyramid. And I think we have a good, promotion side of things, race structure side of things. Then obviously we have the product, which is really important. That's the tangible piece of it that the consumer purchases that is really, really right for the market. So it's exciting. So, it's been really good so far.
Episode number 27 here on the EKN Radio Network, episode 27 of the Industry Insider, speaking today with Justin Stefani from J3 Competition and the Stars and Stripes Rotax Racing Program. Justin, I said earlier that you were probably getting a lot of contact when you guys first announced. Well, I was one of those guys. David Cole and I were we asked that first question. Guys, what's the plan? You guys pick up a program that was, as you said, and I said, kind of flatlined a little bit. There was still Rotax Racing. We wanted to know your plan. So this is the first time we've been able to talk to you. Obviously, you've had a whole year since last year to kind of get to where you are now, what you've been doing. But for those potentially listening in who maybe aren't Rotax racers at this time, maybe in the future, what was the plan and what is the plan right now? Obviously, it's going to evolve a little bit, but initially, I know we asked the question: are you guys going to go after national racing? Is it club? Are we going to go back to the service centers of the years past when you just brought your engine in and it was serviced? What was the initial plan last year? And then part B to that question, has that overall plan and focus evolved at all here in 2019?
Yeah. No, so the plan really was, we put on 2 ticket races, if you will. This past year, we just finished the last one in Pittsburgh, which went really fantastic.
Talk more about that.
And the main thing is really just to work from the bottom of the pyramid, right, where the foundation of karting is at on your local club and up to the regional levels. There's a lot of people who are in the sport or are on the fence thinking about getting into the sport, whether it be from rental karts, whether it be some people that are in some of the lower horsepower sort of karting categories that are looking for something that's, cost effective, has a low cost of ownership, if you will, but also has the excitement, the speed, kind of that recreational fun side of it, and there's a real tangible structure to it that if they do get into the sport, they can scale really within a reasonable budget. So the product line with Rotax and Mojo really fits that very, very well because of our cost of ownership for the engine package. It's a 125cc water-cooled platform where it's the same engine base from Micro Max all the way up to your Senior Max. Now, there's a few little add-ons and changes as you kind of scale through the age brackets and the category brackets. But in the end, the base principle is, it's the same platform. And then obviously with the structure that we have on the global scale, it allows us to bring a lot of depth to those local and kind of regional areas. So that's really where our focus was this year. Going into next year, we'll kind of double down on that and even put more emphasis on the regional and the local levels. Obviously, the engine with its longevity, and then with the Mojo tire, obviously has a high level performance. And then everybody that has used it this year through some of our different regions, as well as the Stars and Stripes events, everybody's really echoed the same thing. We've done a Mojo tire report, which has been kind of interesting, that we posted, where we kind of have all the top 3 in every category, their times from quali all the way to the final, and we've been seeing essentially the fastest times have been coming from the finals, which is something you don't see a lot. especially given the fact that at those events, we only use one set of tires for all of the racing, right?
I looked at that today. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
Which is pretty incredible, right? You look at it and some people say, well, this, person did their, fastest time in the final. Well, they probably went new tires that day, where for 2 solid days of racing, we're on one set of tires, which is, at that 125 kind of higher horsepower is somewhat unheard of, right? So we have a really good package as far as that goes. So we're going to focus on those areas and growing the tracks and the regions that we've been working with this past year. And then, for our ticket races for 2020, that's still a little bit up in the air how the structure will be. It's going to be finalized and will be put out here at the end of September with the venues and the structure and all of that. But, this last year started off a little bit slow, but we picked up and we had a really nice event at the Open event in Pittsburgh. And so it's been an exciting year. So basically a little bit of the same from this past year moving into the next year, I would say, with a little bit more emphasis on the regional, local levels than even what we had in 2019.
There it is, folks, talking right now to Justin Stefani from the J3 Competition Group and Stars and Stripes Rotax Karting. Rotax, of course, back now here in the United States. After this quick break, we'll come back. We're going to start talking about those 2 Stars and Stripes events. Those were kind of the 2 focus events, the bigger events where J3 Competition was able to give out the tickets to the Rotax Grand Final, still one of the biggest racing events globally every year. After this break, folks, we're going to come back with Justin Stefani. In a sport where the difference between winning and losing is measured in hundredths of a second, you can't afford to leave anything on the table. You invest in the best equipment, the latest components, and top-of-the-line data acquisition systems. Anything to find one more tenth, right? I'll tell you right now, the best investment you could ever make is in yourself. If you want to improve your results, it's time for professional instruction and coaching at the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. Located at the new state-of-the-art Speed Sports Racing Park just north of Houston, the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy uses the very best equipment, Burrell Art Carts. They offer half-day, 1-day, 2-day, and 3-day clinics. They have a one-on-one student-to-instructor ratio, and they will design a customized curriculum for each student. Alan Rudolph is one of the most respected people in the sport, and he has nearly 20 years' experience training drivers, including Chase Elliott, Neil Alberico, Austin Versteeg, and Saber Cook, and rising stars like Pietro Fittipaldi. Train with a champion with almost 30 years of racing experience to get proven results. Start off your season with a driver tune-up. Tune up your season with some driver coaching. Or get ready for the big races by training with the best. Reserve your dates now by calling 866-607-RACE. That's 866-607-7223. For more information, visit speedsportsracingpark.com/racing-academy. Top quality material, all presented in fluorescent yellow. You've seen it, and now you need to choose the flow. Since 2005, J3 Competition has been capturing major victories and championships both on and off the track, redefining the industry with each move. The company took its unparalleled knowledge and rolled it into their own chassis line in 2015, the Comp Cart. The CIK FIA homologated brand has been winning races ever since. There are 3 Comp Cart models to choose from. The Covert 3.0 R19 is the latest design for tag and shifter competition. The Covert 4R serves several popular categories, including 100cc and Briggs 206 racing. The Ranger 28 model is designed for cadet racing and will be the official chassis of the Minimax division at the 2019 Rotax Challenge Grand Finals in Sarno, Italy. And lastly, new karters can get right into the Comp Cart product from the beginning, running the micro kart in the Kid Kart division. Visit j3competition.com for more on the fastest growing chassis line in the world. Do it now. Choose the flow.
Hi, EKN listeners. This is Jeff Wessel from Streeter Superstands. When it comes to lifts and stands for your carts and the largest selection of shop and trailer accessories, we know all about building and giving you the best. The Streeter Superstands crew has over 30 years of experience, are kart racers just like you, and know that the Streeter name stands for durability, affordability, and most of all, quality. We're the original and genuine manufacturer of Bigfoots and stacker stands, and we build them right here in the USA, along with our best-selling Streeter Superlift, upright stands, and an ever-growing roster of shop and trailer accessories to outfit any trailer or garage. While some guys pretend to be number one, we prove it every day, every race. Racers demand the best, and Streeter Superstand builds it. Check us out at StreeterSuperstands.com. When it comes to the best in lifts, stands, shop and trailer accessories, and all the cool necessities to make your race day easy and organized, it's all at StreeterSuperstands.com. We innovate, not imitate. Roll with the best right now at StreeterSuperstands.com.
Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network. Industry Insider episode number 27. My name's Rob Howden, joined today by J3 Competitions' Justin Stefani, talking all about the Stars and Stripes Rotax program. Of course, the Rotax power plant back here in American karting. The good folks at J3, Justin and John and Jim Giacomelli, putting together the program, picking up the Rotax BRP distributorship for the northern half of the U.S. They launched last year, just about a year ago, July of 2018, with the U.S. Open event at New Jersey. Resetting things over the offseason, coming back with a couple of Stars and Stripes races. The Stars and Stripes Trophy event was out at the Utah Motorsports Campus on the May 17th to 19th weekend. They just wrapped up their race in late July at the Pittsburgh International Race Complex, the Stars and Stripes Open. And before the break, Justin, you talked about the fact that you kind of got off to a bit of a slow start and then things picked up throughout the season. To me, that would come as absolutely no surprise. You press the reset button, you essentially roll yourselves out and introduce yourself as the Rotax importer for the northern half of the states late last year. Yeah, everybody's getting to know you guys. They're seeing the momentum. They saw what you guys did putting on the race out at Utah, and that's obviously just going to, it's going to steamroll right to the next event. Let's talk about the open race, the one you just had. Let's focus on that because you're giving out the tickets to the Rotax Grand Finals, and lighter numbers in Utah, but you really started to get those good high teens numbers you want to have a legitimate, strong event. The race at Pit Race was strong.
Yeah, no, it was good. It's like when you start everything, I think you kind of hit it. You have to start from somewhere. So we started and we pushed forward, like I said, with the kind of the quality and the integrity in which, myself and Jim and John do things. And we grew it really nicely to a great event in Pittsburgh. And we had, for us, we were really on par with what we were aiming for numbers. And, the racing was great, all the way from the mini micro category upward. In the mini micro category, probably arguably, I would say, the two best drivers in that category in the world were battling it out on a last lap battle. The senior race was great. The junior race obviously was a lot of heavy hitters in that one. So the race went well, and it was really great because some of the people that were there, well, I should say a lot of the people that were there, nearly all of them, weren't at the first race, which is kind of a nice, interesting fact, because then when you take, organically, you have the entries at Pittsburgh, and there's, I don't even know if there was any crossover, to be honest. If there was, it was very minimal to Utah. If you actually combine the two, now all of a sudden you're kind of well up over the 100 mark, which is pretty interesting when you look at that. But some of the people weren't used to the concept, obviously, because it's new, of using the one set of tires, for instance, for all of racing. And, like I explained to people, I said, this is the exact same concept that, they do at the grand finals. So people were a little bit worried about that originally. But, again, people were doing their fastest times in the final. The tires performed great. And I think what a lot of people, the takeaway was, those are our kind of two marquee races. It's not our foundation of what we're trying to promote and do. It's really the pinnacle events. And what we're trying to do is make sure that we run those events as closely as possible to that grand finals event. Because people are there, obviously, to try to earn that ticket to the grand finals. And we know in the past years how many times, American karters have went overseas to compete, whether it be CIK or whatever it may be. And it's so different from what we do over here, right? So you just have that big gap where over the years, Jim and John and myself talk about it all the time, where it's almost an unfair advantage because everybody strives to be a world champion. But when you go to those races, it's so much unfamiliarity, right? Where with the events we're putting on, we're trying to make that to where, when Team USA goes to, the Rotax Grand Finals, they say, wow, this is familiar ground. This is, the exact same material, if you will.
We've done this before.
Process.
Right? Yeah. That's a great call. I think it's a fantastic call. We'll talk more about Team USA after the next break in the action here. One thing I do want to bring up, and I like the fact that that's the way you approach things. For those who may have not, didn't go to the Stars and Stripes event, one of the interesting things, of course, was the engine raffle. Can you talk a little bit about where you employed the engine raffle and how that all worked?
Yeah, so we have all the engines obviously sealed. It's part of your entry fee that your actual engine is included in that. So when you go to registration, which is pretty standard, but you'll get your entry packet, you get your hard card, obviously with your ID barcode on that hard card. And then we had a time schedule on Thursday, which was, material pickup throughout the day. And when it was your time slot, you came over to, we had 2 garages rented out there where we had all the lottery engines set up. You obviously then present yourself when it's your time slot. We scan your hard card, and we do it pretty analog. We have the old ping pong balls, which I think makes it fun, and you kind of the kids reach their hand in there. It's always kind of, I think, a little bit more fun that way. And they pull it out the number, and then it's 100% random, and then you're presented that engine, and before you take it away, we have a Rotax has a event management system where everything is barcoded and it's assigned to the driver, everything from hard card credentials, the driver's meeting, the engine, your tires. So we scan your engine, and that's your engine for the entire event. And then we have a full service staff there also throughout the event. So if you do have an engine issue, or if you do have any tuning issues or questions, the competitors are able to push their card over. And I think we have 3 full-time people there over the event to work with the customers to try to provide, a great experience. And I think, by and large, we did a really good job of that, and we had a lot of happy drivers.
Now let's go back a little bit on that, because those, again, new people listening to the ECAN radio network in this particular podcast, one of the reasons for the engine raffle is, again, as you said, to provide that level playing field. It's an absolute, you're picking it. You're picking a ball, your ping pong ball out. It's a raffle. You don't know which one you're going to get. And in years past, when people were owning engines, again, this was again in the pre-Evo engines. Of course, Rotax has really elevated their engine production and engine assembly and everything at the track itself, or at the facility itself, the manufacturing facility. This, back, Justin, this, you're a team owner. Back in the day, there was all the talk of this engine being a massive engine, people selling them for ridiculous amounts of money. But there was ones that people thought were hot rods, right? And this removes that. That when you're rolling into a race, that you're going to have exactly the same amount of horsepower as the guy beside you. And again, whether it's a spec program, whatever it may be, the engine raffle, the absolute best way to do that, right? You're not even bringing your own engine with a spec that's so close that everybody's probably going to have the same amount of horsepower. This is straight up. It's an engine raffle. It's a crapshoot. You pick an engine and away you go. I like that.
Yeah, no, it worked well. And what it's kind of allowed us to do too is, and you brought this up earlier, so this is a nice segue, is it's allowed us to kind of revamp and revise the structure of what the service center is. Some people know, some people don't know that all Rotax engines actually have a seal on them, and those seals are assigned to a dedicated service center, which that service center sort of network and concept became a little bit diluted, like everything does over years. So, we had some things happening that probably shouldn't. So this has allowed us to kind of re-kickstart that service center program and make sure that people are kind of following the rules and what they need to do to have a lot of integrity in that system. So obviously, as we kind of start to churn and build that system up, the people that will be there will actually be able to service the people correctly. And then that sealed engine, when it comes from a service center, it's going to mean something, right? And that's all traceable, right? So if there's anything that is found not to be compliant, if you will, all the seals are barcoded, right? And they're all registered to certain service centers. So the traceability and whatnot is there. So, that'll be something that we obviously push really hard moving forward for 2020 as well.
Let's talk about that now real briefly. We probably could have that to 2020, but let's talk about it now because you brought it up. That was the beauty of Rotax when it first came, right? When it first arrived here, and this was this Rotax program, is that there were not everybody, you could become a service center. If I'm not mistaken, back in the day when you were a service center, you were also, at the very early days, you actually had to run a series yourself. That service center had to run a series, an RMC series, Rotax Max Challenge series. But you serviced the engine. Engine came in, there was a set thing you did, you put the engine back out in a way, it wasn't overly expensive, and the engine, of course, has always had great longevity. The evolution there was service centers all of a sudden decided that they were engine builders, and they weren't just servicing the engine, they were trying to make it faster than their other service center and another service center. And then decal started to go on. It wasn't just a service center anymore where you came in and did the preset mandated Rotax service. It was, I'm going to make sure this engine's bad fast, and we're going to go racing. And all of a sudden it became engine builders, not service centers. That said, is that where you guys are going with J3 competition? Are we back again to, let's say I'm racing wherever I'm racing. I'm in Michigan, and there's a Michigan service center. I go to that service center, and they take care of my engine, and they do what's spec to do.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You can never control some service centers. Obviously, have dynos and these things, but really, I think the biggest thing is Rotax has taken it on their shoulders with the development of some critical items that really eliminate, as you said, that monster engine and has created parity. So although, whether it's a service center setting a particular squish or whatnot, with the way the new cylinders are produced and in the way some of the other performance items are produced, the parity and the gap has shrunk so much that there's really not a ton you can do to find performance. Back in the day, as you mentioned, it was a cylinder game, which is pretty common in 2-cycle racing, right? Yeah. But with the way the new cylinders are produced, that's really kind of gotten tossed out the window, and being able to kind of start scratch with the service center program, we're able to ensure that the people who are legitimate service centers now are following the process, and they're kind of following the mandates, and they're following really the overarching principle, right, which is integrity and which is kind of growth of the sport and providing cost-effective, service to Rotax customers. So, it should be really good. I think it was good this year. Obviously, all of our ticket races, if you will, were lottery engines. So some of those service centers obviously weren't able to kind of participate, if you will, with sealed engines. So, a little bit of that will change in 2020. But in general, I think being able to kind of start fresh, like you said, start with the reset button. There's a lot of long-term value in that because you're able to really build a platform kind of, I don't want to necessarily say the way we want to build it, but probably the right way and the way that it needs to be built with integrity and all of that from the ground up.
I like that. That's the positive stuff I like to hear. And again, that's going to really pave the way for Rotax to build its foundation, rebuild its foundation by going after the club racers and the regional racers and providing that, like you said, that level of integrity in that sealed engine program. Talking about the Stars and Stripes events, your trophy event and your open event. Now let's segue and talk about Team USA, because those events, away from what you guys are doing in terms of the foundation club racing, as you said, the two kind of marquee events, as the importer, obviously, distributor for the engines here in the U.S., you're charged with being able to give out the tickets to be able to go to the Rotax Grand Finals. Still one of the greatest events that David Cole and I have ever been to. We've been to a couple of them. Just a tremendous race globally. Racers coming in from all the different Rotax countries to go head-to-head, all the teams, the Nations Cup. Just an amazing race. This year taking place October 19th to the 26th. It's going to be in Sarno in Italy. I'm going to throw out the drivers right now, Justin, and then we could talk about those drivers a little bit. We could talk about maybe the mindset and the approach that you guys are going to take. Micromax drivers, Adam Brickley and Ben Mayer. Junior Max, Connor Zilich, Josh Pearson, Luca Mars, heavy hitters there for sure. In DD2, Max Hewitt and Josh Bethune from New Zealand. 13 drivers total coming, 12 with U.S. licenses. Josh, of course, from New Zealand. In the Mini-Max class, we'll have Cameron Weinberg and Alex McPherson. In Senior Max, Nick Bruckner, Ryan Norberg, and Jace Denmark-Gessel. And in DD2 Masters, it's going to be Derek Wang and Tim Schutt. 13 drivers in total. Of course, the 12 guys with the U.S. licenses. The red, white, and blue for Team USA. I absolutely love the logo. My question to you is this: we can go back a little bit and talk about the drivers because you've got a great lineup of top level U.S. champions. What's your approach going in this year? Pardon me. It's been a deal where there's been times when some people will go by themselves to a certain extent. In years past, there's been a pretty major Team USA kind of team feel. Is it going to be a team approach or more of a hands-off individual effort?
I think in general it's a team approach, but a team approach from the standpoint of when we're actually physically at the event. It's a team approach. I think, there's a lot of logistics behind it, people getting to and from and all of that stuff. And we're pretty hands off on that, right? Obviously, we usher any assistance people need, but as far as that goes, there's no force mandated. People have to travel together and do this. But obviously, we're representing our country. One thing that I thought was important that we did was, after we handed out the ticket, we had a nice meeting at Pittsburgh, and we had to do it via email for the people who won the tickets in Utah and whatnot. Just kind of a committal letter, right? Obviously, the event's a month earlier this year than in years past. So we get people that are, committed, not waiting till the last minute. Sometimes some people, I can't do it or whatever. So that team is secure and it's solidified. From being at the racetrack, the idea is to be very team approached. Obviously, people want to race and get the best result individually, right? That's always been the case. But we kind of have a good method of being hands off at the track as well. We want to provide the infrastructure that people need, and we want to provide everything that they need from the sporting and the technical side, just because some things are different. There's some newness is there, if you will, but basically manage it from that side of things. From the technical side, obviously we have a lot of knowledge on that, but we've always been a pretty firm believer that everybody has a team that they race for here, or a mechanic or a tuner, and most everybody is going to bring that team or tuner or mechanic. So we're not there to step on people's toes and force people to do anything. But obviously we're going to be there to make sure that everybody has, the team concept. One thing that'll be kind of mandated this year is they have a welcome party, which is probably one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And all the countries get up and you kind of do almost a choreographed skit. It's a really nice kind of team building bonding event prior to actually hitting the track. So we're going to make sure all the members are there representing our country properly, and it should be a good time. But, in terms of forcing people down a certain path or a certain funnel, if you will, we're not going to do that so much from the technical side, just from the sporting side and the presentation side and representing your country side, which is, ultimately, the most important thing. And then what happens on the track, that'll be up to the drivers. And we certainly have some phenomenal talent, without a doubt.
Well, and I think the interesting thing is, and I like that approach, I really do, because people do come in with their own programs, right? They're going to be under the Team USA banner, but they've also been, they've had a mechanic they've had for many years, whatever it may be. They come in with their own set approach, their set, the way they do things trackside. And you don't want to get in the middle of that, right? You don't want to mess up what actually worked to get them to Team USA by trying to follow some different philosophy. But that said, both you, Jim, and John, veterans of the sport, veteran drivers yourself, there is an opportunity for you guys, while still looking over the entire program and making sure that there's continuity, you guys can still be there for sounding boards, I think. I'm pretty sure that you guys have earned enough respect within the paddock that you could be there if necessary. I think that's probably something that you would consider. Yeah.
And that's kind of how it was a little bit last year. Obviously, we kind of came in halfway, as you said, when we took over the distribution systems in the summer, and then kind of Team USA was handed to us at that point. This year, a little bit different, but since we have it, from the beginning of the year onward. But last year was the same thing. We let people kind of do what they wanted to do, and you just kind of develop that relationship. I think we have a lot of respect for the people who are on Team USA and the different, shops and teams. And like you said, I think they have respect for us. So, when we kind of have a sidebar discussion, some of the guys will, ask myself or John or Jim will be there this year. He wasn't last year. What their thought is, and whether they take the advice or they don't. It's for me, it's all about data points, and the more data points you can kind of put out there, it certainly allows you to make better decisions usually. So just to be part of that process and do all the other stuff on the backside, so the drivers can be performing at their best on the track is really what we're there to do.
Well, it's kind of like being the coach of the dream team for Team USA in Olympic basketball, right? You got 12 all-stars, 12 legends, super like all-stars. Just let them go.
Yeah, just make sure the ball's got air in it, and don't forget their tennis shoes, and kind of let them do their thing. So yeah, I mean that's a good analogy. The last thing you want to do is overcoach, overanalyze, and let the professionals do what they do best.
That's it. All right, folks, one more break here in this particular episode of the Industry Insider. Justin Stefani from J3 Competition and the Stars and Stripes Road Tax program joining me here today on the EKN Radio Network. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about 2020, and I'm going to ask Justin a couple of questions on what it's been like to evolve over the years within the sport of karting. Stay with us. More to come here on the EKN Radio Network.
If you want to drive the best, drive a CRG. Our countless race wins and championships prove this fact, including taking the KZ Finals at the SCUSA Super Nationals and the CIK World Championships in both 2016 and 2017. Our material is second to none. After years of independent American importers, CRG is now managed directly by the factory and run out of our state-of-the-art headquarters in Texas. CRG Nord-Am is the American arm of the CRG factory in Italy, and we're serious about success. We stock a wide variety of parts in all of our chassis, from the CRG Hero for the mini categories, to the Heron for tag race, the Road Rebel for gearbox competition, and the new FS4, which has been designed specifically for American 4-cycle Briggs racing. If you're ready to step up to the national level, do it with a factory race team that competes across the USA. CRG Nord-Am is a full factory effort with the best personnel and the finest equipment. We're serious about winning, and you should be too.
If the dream is IndyCar, set your target on the road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires. Our ladder system is designed to take drivers through 3 rungs of competition. The first step is the Cooper Tires USF 2000 Championship, which features a carbon tub Tatis chassis, 180 horsepower, and paddle shift sequential gearbox. Boost the USF 2000's output to 280 horsepower for the newly named Indy Pro 2000 program, the second rung of the road to Indy, formerly known as Pro Mazda. Add in increased grip and aero downforce, and the Tatis PM18 becomes an incredible racing machine. The final step before IndyCar is the Indy Lights Championship presented by Cooper Tires. The Dallara IL-15 boasts a whopping 450 horsepower. This car itself has helped train a third of the grid expected for the 2019 IndyCar Series. At all 3 levels, you race at premier venues on the same dance card as IndyCar. Showcase your skills under the watchful eyes of IndyCar scouts and owners. The program is unprecedented around the world, offering the opportunity to climb the ladder with over $2 million in scholarships to the champions in USF 2000, Indy Pro 2000, and Indy Lights. Former karters fill the roster of Road to Indy graduates in IndyCar like Spencer Piggott, Zach Veach, Jack Harvey, Ed Jones, Matthias Laced, Felix Rosenquist, Colton Herta, and 2018 Indy Lights champion Pato O'Ward. Recent graduates like Kyle Kirkwood are in the middle of their journeys right now as well. Follow in their footsteps. If you want to race IndyCar, there's only one choice. The Road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires. As a world leader in personal racing safety products with a sales and service staff and dealer network unmatched in motorsports, Simpson Performance Products is now the official North American distributor for Stilo helmets. In addition to their wildly popular auto racing helmets, Stilo is extremely excited to have made their move into the karting community with a pair of stellar options. Stilo has 2 helmets designed and manufactured specifically for karting: the Stilo ST5 CMR 2016 for kids, and the Stilo ST5 Kart Snell K 2015 adult karting helmet. The company's karting helmets are directly derived from Stilo's auto racing helmets that are so popular at the top levels of racing. Drivers rave about the superior comfort levels, as well as Stilo's lightweight construction and unparalleled field of vision, a crucial attribute for karting. For more information on Stilo, check them out at simpsonperformanceproducts.com/Stilo or by following them on social media at Stilo USA. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network, episode number 27 of the Industry Insider, mid-August here in 2019, August 16th to be exact. This is the Industry Insider. Justin Stefani from J3 Competition joining me today, the United States distributor of the Rotax BRP product line, and of course the promoter as well of the Stars and Stripes program, the couple of races they had this year, and just the overall program of bringing Rotax back to American karting. Justin, you touched briefly on 2020. We didn't go really deeply into it. You talked about the fact that there are potential evolutions of how you're going to approach things. I don't think that your focus on supporting club level racing and those who want to get into the sport or those who are potentially looking to go a little faster. That is, of course, something always with karting. You always want to maybe go a little faster depending on where you are within your experience. What are you thinking of right now? Are there any new tracks you have coming on board club-wise? Let's start with that. In the club level, do you see new pockets of the sport where maybe the Rotax fire is starting to burn a little brighter?
Yeah, no, for sure. We have a few new tracks right now that looks like they'll be coming on board, and then we have some existing facilities that a lot of people on that localized area are understanding the importance of, not to get down this rabbit hole, but moving back to the tag engine concept, right? Where you're able to manage that pretty easily on a localized level, able to have a nice structure, but you're able to allow competitors to run what product, if you will, that, maybe fits their budget or fits their style or fits their preference for whatever reason, whether that's from a service standpoint, drivability standpoint, engine life standpoint. I think anytime on the local level, when you can grow participation, you need to lower the barriers of entry. It's a tricky thing to do because you obviously want to keep things fair and you want to mitigate all of those, those issues, I guess, if you will, that can arise. But I think if done properly, it works. We've seen it work in pockets where we have clubs and regions that are, 20, 30 people running in what we would call the tag junior senior category.
Yep.
A nice mix of engines, and people are happy, right? When people can kind of pick and choose to a certain degree on that local level what they want, that makes for a happy customer. And a happy customer, that's somebody that's going to be in the sport, that's going to be contributing to our sport for a long time. We keep them longer, and so that's been good. So we have some facilities that are going to move towards that. We have some facilities that are going to adopt the tire, or some facilities that are going to adopt the engine policy all in itself. So it looks to be good for 2020 for us.
Well, again, coming out of the box as you guys did last year, it's all about baby steps. It's all about growing. I harken it back when we were talking. When I first launched Shifter Card Illustrated magazine back in 1999, I didn't have the 5,000 or 6,000 subscribers I ended up with. I had 15, and then I had 100, and then it's one of those things where as the ball starts to roll, you guys are going to be able to find yourself in the place you need to be. And I do like the tag program at club level racing because I'm all about being inclusive, not exclusive, and it allows the driver, if they want a Rotax, if they want a Rock, if they want an IAME, whatever engine they want to be on, because maybe they want to go run a Stars and Stripes race, or they want to run a Rock the Rio race, or they want to run a SCUSA race, whatever it may be. That allows people to kind of do what they want to do and not have themselves pushed out because they don't have the right engine package. So I agree with you on that totally. Here's my next question about 2020. Now, we touched on it briefly. Is there a goal to continue with the major multiple events like you did this year with the Trophy and the Open, Stars and Stripes? Or is there potential of going just to one big race? If you're not, listen, and let me preface it with this. I'm sure you guys are still working on that because you're so fluid. Things are growing. You're getting more and more people. Like you said, you had almost all brand new people racing at the Trophy compared to what you had, or the Open, compared to they had at the Trophy in Utah. You had new guys, in Pennsylvania. It's got to be tough for you guys to figure out what the right move is going to be because middle of next year you might say, man, we should have just did this.
Yeah. It's always easy to look back into the window,
Yeah.
right? Once it's happened. But yeah, for next year, like I said, which way we go with the structure of the ticket race/races, plural, if you will. That'll all be out by the end of September at the very latest. Schedule of tracks, everything else. So we're just kind of in the middle of finalizing all of that. This year, like I said, went really well. But again, you want to provide what the consumers are asking, and you want to provide what the market is asking for. But also in doing so, you need to keep your eye, out on the horizon too, and make sure that the decisions are made for the growth and the future of the program. So, they're never easy decisions, right? But definitely we're going to make the right one, and I'm confident in what we'll do on that side of things for 2020.
So there you go, folks. Look for more news coming out of the J3 Stars and Stripes camp before potentially the end of September or October to what's going to be happening in 2020. All right, let's cap this podcast off, Justin, because I find it very interesting. I've been in this long enough, 25 years, that I sometimes when I'm at a race somewhere, I try to remember back to the guys that I either were watching racing in the mid to late 90s when I started, or those who were just getting into the industry and starting to kind of work their way, the way forward, and how they've become part of the core part of our sport. And there's some guys that were racers and they really had no business acumen at all, and they've worked their way into the industry and have had to learn through ups and downs. Of course, you went to school and have you have a degree. I believe it's in management. What is your degree?
Yeah, supply chain. Yep.
That's what I thought. See, this is you're exactly where you need to be, but you put it in karting, which I think is fantastic. It doesn't happen all the time. Give me your thoughts on the transition. First and foremost, coming from being a driver into the sport, because then where I want to go to after that is I want to get your thoughts on all of a sudden going to the other side of the fence, or let's say, if you will, the other side of the heated argument, going from team owner to promoter, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be tough. How's the transition been throughout the 15, 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all starts with passion, right? And, had a great opportunity with Jim and John Giacomelli, who were already in the game, right? Already players in the game, if you will. And, we were able to kind of, create J3 competition, right? And I was able to come in from, being an ex-participant in the sport to, being able to run a business and partner with those guys. And all three of us have a skill set, as similar as they are, they're definitely different and they complement each other. So I think that's been one of our really biggest assets is, we can kind of lean on each other, and there's three of us, which, sometimes I think outsiders look in and go, how does that work? But I think unlike a lot of people what the three of us individually bring are different enough, and they complement each other a lot. And that's allowed us to be successful. But yeah, I mean, from the transition over the years from, importing and distributing product to now, so we still do that for Rotax, running the race team side of things over the years. It's just it's a sport of passion, right? And you always have to evolve, and we always talk about looking out in the horizon and making sure we're looking multiple years down the road and not making the short-term decisions. And we've done a good job with that. The sport's definitely evolved and kind of went through a lot of interesting turns over the last 15 years. But
Agreed.
It is one of those things, when you drive, obviously you do it for the love and the passion. And, when you're working with a driver or you're managing a team, I mean, I think I still, my heart still is beating, about 100 beats a minute, right? When you're standing up in the grandstand or you're standing on the perch and you're timing your drivers and you're doing the split times. I think that motivation, when you have the undying passion for the sport, never leaves you. And at least for me, and whether, you're managing or you're developing a product, there's nothing more satisfying really than actually seeing another driver out there that's either part of your team that you work with, or they're utilizing one of your products and they're having success. That's really what motivates us as a business. And then from the promotion side, which is a little bit different, I take the hat completely off and really kind of head up the operations at our events and just try to be a good sounding board for everybody, because we've been on all sides of the fence and try to make sure, the point of view from the race team owner and the driver, we uniquely
it's fresh, right?
Point of views, right?
It's fresh for you. That's where I kind of wanted to go, because I was going to ask you, it's so fresh for you guys. It's so fresh that it's weekend to weekend. It's not like you've stopped doing what you're doing in the industry and you become a promoter, right? It's you guys are still a team owner. How does that experience? How has that really helped what you do trackside when you're on the other side of the fence?
I think we've just had a good relationship with all of our kind of fellow colleagues in the industry, right? We all kind of talk, the ones that respect each other, and everybody says, hey, this is what we need to do, this is where it needs to go, and we're simply are at a place in our business and then at a place with the Rotax side of things to be able to really provide the industry what everybody's been asking for, right? For the last 10, 15 years. We all kind of sit around the paddock a little bit, Rob, and we're at an airport, we're flying out, we're at dinner, we have all these industry sidebar talks with people, and I think for us, we're acting on what the market wants and what the market's been asking for. And we've been in, we're in a position now to be able to do that, to help the sport, stabilize even further and obviously hopefully grow as well. So, that part of it is exciting, and we take that serious, not only for ourselves and our business, but for, all of our fellow, competitors and friends that we obviously industry members, if you will, that we have in the paddock. It's important for us to be one of those core, businesses that help, grow the sport and provide stability for everybody in it. It's not just about J3 competition. I think when you're doing something only for yourself, you're really missing the big picture on what this is about. And this is a pretty tight community here, this karting industry, and we really need to be able to support each other. But in doing so, we need to make sure that we're providing sound fundamental platforms for all of us to sustain our businesses and grow it and grow the sport. And that's really kind of at one of the cores and what we're doing right now with the Rotax program and the Stars and Stripes.
That's great stuff, Justin. Thank you so much. And you know what? I'll give a little shout out to you and Jim and John. It was J&J at one point, then it became J3. Obviously, when you joined, you said 15 years since you joined those guys. Congratulations on 15 years in the industry. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, and thanks for having us on. And we appreciate it.
Folks, we're going to be coming back to Justin Stefani more and more throughout the next couple of years. Obviously, their position now as not only a team and as a chassis, essentially manufacturer with CompCard, also with the Rotax program, lots of opportunity to talk to them and get more insight into what we're seeing as this sport develops. Of course, IAME, Rock, still strong, or not still strong, but strong within the industry, but great to have Rotax back as well. You think about the three big races, of course, the IAME International Final, the Rock Cup Super Final, which is called now, and the granddaddy of them all for the last number of years, the Rotax Grand Final. Awesome to have the three strong engine manufacturers back here in the U.S. We do thank Justin for being with us here today, folks, and thank you guys for joining in on another edition of the Industry Insider. This will be, of course, streaming on the EKN Radio Network first, then we'll turn it into a podcast. But as always, if you're listening to it on the podcast because you haven't downloaded the EKN Radio Network app to your mobile device, do so. All our fresh content first streaming live on the EKN Radio Network app or on the website at ekartingnews.com/radio. Once again, big thank you to Justin Stefani for joining me here today, and we thank you for tuning in as well. Folks, we're done here on the Industry Insider. My name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.